All right, councilors. We'll get started with our council meeting of the 23rd of February, 2023. We'll start with our
invite you to join in if you wish. Whakatakataho ki te uru, whakatakataho ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia matatatara ki tai, e he aki ana te atakura, e tio, he huka, he ho hu, ti hei mauri ora.
Thank you for that. Now, before we get started into the regular proceedings, Chris, you wanted to acknowledge a previous councillor who's passed. Yes.
Look, I just wanted to bring to your attention one of the founding councillors, Jim Howland, who was on council from 1989 to 2007, passed away a couple of months ago, or in the last couple of months, I should say. He was a very dedicated, I'd say very loved councillor here, who had a range of functions, and I just thought it was worth noting in a formal session, acknowledging his passing away. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Chris. It's always good to acknowledge, particularly those who have dedicated parts of their lives to public service. It's not always an easy role, and so it's always lovely to acknowledge the contribution that people have made. So thank you for that. We'll move to the apologies. We've got apologies from Councillor Mahuta and Councillor Smith. Do I have a mover? Councillor Kneebone, second, Councillor Strange. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we've got confirmation of the agenda, and we do have a change to our normal wording because we're just noting that item 8.6, submission of the review into the future for local government draft report, was included in the agenda and error and will not be tabled at this meeting. Do I have a mover for that? Oh, sorry. Yep.
If I could just confirm, so the chair and I were in Wellington last week when you had the final workshop. I understand that the decision was made that it could be signed off on the back of it by the chair, deputy chair, and myself. Thanks.
So moved by Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any disclosures of interest for the items we're discussing, or any additions to the register? None. All right, we'll move on to, this is item 5.1 on page 6. These are the minutes of the council meeting on the 15th of December. Do I have a mover for those minutes? Councillor Dunbar-Smith, and a seconder? Councillor Marr. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, so now we have a series of the committee minutes that all happened on the 7th of December. We'll just move through one by one. First, we have the Strategy and Policy Committee. This is on page 14. Do I have a mover that those are a true and correct record? Councillor Marr. Second, Councillor Dunbar-Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we have Integrated Catchment Management Committee on the 7th of December. Do I have a mover for those? Councillor Cookson, a second. Councillor Graff. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we've got the Environmental Performance Committee. We're on page 23 now. Do I have a mover? Councillor Dunbar-Smith, seconded by Councillor Hodge. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we've got the Climate Action Committee. This is on page 27. Do I have a mover for those? Councillor Nickel, a second. And Councillor Dunbar Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we've got Finance and Services Committee on the 7th of December. I have a mover, Councillor Hughes, second, Councillor Downard. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Sorry, yes. Sorry, this is page, so this, what page number are you?
Sorry, I didn't use the mic.
There.
Yeah.
Page
Page 31, second left paragraph on item 4. Nominated as chair of the Finance Committee. I think that might be deputy chair.
Oh, this is on page 33, I see.
Oh, yeah,
Page
sorry.
33.
Unless it was meant to be nominated by
Unless it was
Stu
nominated
Kneebone.
by someone else.
Dave. It possibly was
Yeah, that's true.
nominated by Stu Kneebone. You can do.
Oh, right. I see what we're, I see.
Yeah, because the deputy part is
Yes.
further down, isn't it?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, no.
Just need to fix that up. Doesn't sound right.
And then the
Check the recording. Oh, did you?
yeah,
Oh, that's deputy, but this.
I think the two have been
paragraph
switched around.
Is with regards to.
So deputy should have been the other one.
Oh, I see. Seconded by. Okay. All right, that the amendments as discussed be checked against the recording. All right, we happy with that change? All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, now we've got the submission subcommittee. It's on page 35. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Marr, second, Councillor Cookson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, so now we move on to item 7.1. These are committees, the minutes of committees reporting to council. Start with Nehenehenui Joint Committee. Councillor Kneebone, did you want to speak to this?
Look, it's all pretty straightforward. It was really just an opportunity to meet with Te Nehenehenui and elect the chairs, or the respective chairs and respective co-chairs and deputy
Yeah.
co-chairs. Of course, you were there, yeah. And just I guess a very brief discussion on aspirations for the year going forward. But that's probably all I can. Yeah.
Sure. All right, would you like to move those minutes? I'll second them. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, we're now on 7.2. This is page 43, the Waikato Civil Defense Emergency Management Joint Committee of the 12th of December, 2022. Councillor Downard, would you like to speak to these as an alternate on that committee?
Pretty much the same as what Councillor Kneebone said, yes. I take it as read, yeah, and I'll move it.
Somebody like to second that? Councillor Cookson? Any questions or anything like that anybody had? Not, we'll put it, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we now move to item 8.1. This is on page 55. And we've got, so this is the health and safety report for December 22 to January 23. And we have Marie Fullerton joining us in lieu of Stu Brown. Welcome, Marie.
Hello everybody, and I will take the report as read, but I will go over a couple of points because it's covering December and January. In December, we had 4 incidents related to vehicle use. It's something that's high on our agenda, although the incidents are usually quite minor. Somebody backing into something in the field or other vehicles in 2 occasions banging into the back of our vehicles. In terms of anything else, there's a very, very low reporting for January as work didn't sort of, it was people's leave. So the other thing I wanted to highlight was the WorkSafe prosecution. Now these go in each month because it's an opportunity for us to have a look at, one, the fines and the level of fine that you would get under section 36 generally, or section 34 where you're looking at contract management. So they're sort of 2 key things to be looking at. This one related to injury of a worker. And what we wanted to highlight here is that supervision was seen to be lacking. So there might be systems and processes in place, but supervision is key. So we are encouraging our supervisors to get out there and formally note a review of work that's been done. The other thing that this links to, and Stuart might have talked to you about it, we've implemented a leadership walk around, and this helps our leaders, who are our decision makers, to look at work as imagined, but then to see how workers do it in the field. So it's really important. Those walk-arounds are going very well and providing opportunities for some corrective actions as well. So just the point of this is to provide you with assurance around work that's being done across our variety of tasks.
So this is where in the report you present some of the latest WorkSafe findings. These are
Yes.
not about events that happen here at Waikato Regional Council or any WorkSafe directly related issues to WRC. This is just to raise our awareness of what's happening out there and where we see prosecutions happening or
Yes.
or corrective action being called for, and you're talking to us about how we incorporate that into our business as usual where appropriate, right?
It's good to keep an eye on how the prosecutions are going in terms of reparation as well. So that's payments that an organisation makes to the person, to the injured person. So it's good to look at those 2 and how they're balancing up, and reparation is now looking very similar to the prosecution. So that was just 2 points I wanted to mention, but if there was anything else that you'd like to ask, answer any questions.
Councillor Kneebone.
Thanks, Madam Chair. No, thanks, Marie. Just want to check in the vehicle underside hitting a bit of culvert. Does the organisation differentiate between, obviously when you're off-road, you're going to hit things, that's life, and some of those are going to be health and safety risks, and some of them are going to be vehicle damage maintenance risks. Do we differentiate between those to make sure we're not classifying inappropriate things as health and safety risks?
Yeah, so I suppose everything that happens in the field, or we expect all events, whether they're near misses or actual events that have caused some kind of property damage or personal harm to be reported. And we do classify those. So the off-road ones, sometimes they are unavoidable. They're traveling through long grass and farms and don't know if there's sometimes pieces of metal or concrete.
So
Yeah.
just want to get assurance that those unavoidable sticks that go up underneath the car aren't classified as health and safety risks.
No. No.
Thank you.
It's more property damage that we'd like to capture as well,
Cool.
because
No,
that's
I
the
agree with that.
total.
Thank you.
Any other, did you want to make a comment? Sure.
Yes, councillors, I think there had been a request for some governance training on health and safety. And I think there is a plan to bring that in the not too distant future. Marie, I don't know if you got any update on that.
Yes, so the plan was to deliver that at the end of a council session, and that would be done in conjunction with Stuart and myself. It would be very similar to the training we provided very early in the induction phase. That may have, I know you've actually attended so many workshops. So if that's going to be useful, we'll deliver that at the end of a session and can have questions, answers. In March, and we had booked it in for perhaps 10 minutes during the session with a PowerPoint or after your business.
Great. Thank you for that. Oh, Councillor Marr?
Yeah, could I would just question the necessity for that piece and our role around the council table and the health and safety risks. Yeah, I feel that we're possibly that their time would be better used. And I don't know how the other councillors feel if they need a health and safety debrief or briefing, but I certainly don't.
So if I could just comment. I think there'd been a request. It's not about a health and safety briefing for yourselves. It's understanding your role in the governance of health and safety as a councillor, because there's some nuanced differences to other board situations. If there wasn't the need and interest for it, that would be fine.
Councillor Kneebone?
Look, I think it's really important, Warren. We sort of traversed this last year, and one of the key differences between us and a private enterprise where we'd be governors is that we have some protections that corporate governance don't have. That in itself isn't a good reason for us not to apply good governance oversight over health and safety, because in a private situation we'd be accountable if something went wrong, you know. But so look, I just think it's a really good idea, and we absolutely need to be over this from a governance perspective.
Councillor Cookson?
I know there's a situation happened in the Waikato thing this last week with a health and safety, but I just wanted to just question how well is that policy working with contracting staff? Because the incident was a contractor.
Yeah, without knowing the details of that, contractor management is a critical risk for us. We've identified that a long time ago, and it would be for any organisation that was contractors. We have some really robust tendering processes in place. So prior to awarding a contract, if they're as required contractors, there is a set of lesser documentation. If you're not going through the tender process, then there are other requirements that you need to meet. And all of our contractors need to be SHE pre-qual. So that's pre-qualification with SHE or Tutika. We're just looking at accepting Tutika as well.
Have we got a system where if that contractor is working alone, that there is anything other than a mobile phone that he can get a response from? Thank you.
That is one of the risk assessments that would have to be done at the time, and I agree with you. A mobile phone does not suit situations. All mobile phones have black spots. Unfortunately, we can't get data on where those black spots are. So generally it'll be the staff working in those areas would know. To combat that, to overcome that, we have a satellite device called an inReach device. You can pair it with a companion app with your cell phone and use satellite for communication through your phone. It does require you to have power. So in situations like we've just experienced, it's really important to have that satellite device available. And we're going to be driving that a little bit harder and assessing whether we need additional devices across the region. But if it was a contractor, we can loan those devices to the contractor. So we have an ability to assign the contractor to a device if they're working alone and it's remote and it's dangerous or high risk work. So I'd like to think that we can work through all of those situations.
Thank you. I think that answers it. But yeah, I think we just need to think of our outside contractors in a better light, that they are working on their own, and a lot of the time they're working in the dark in night hours because of tidal situations, that they're working on their own, and an app or something like that would make it far safer, that if something occurred and happened to them, that they would be in far better situation than where they are with a mobile phone. Thank you.
No, it's an interesting topic that came up at the regional sector group because there was discussion around regional council field staff and how we've all kind of moved away from the RT.
Yes.
And there were a number of councils who were commenting on with the recent cyclone and cell towers going down.
Yeah.
That they realized that all of a sudden there was an exposure there that they thought we had moved on from with new technology. And so I would encourage, I'm sure that we're assessing any risk that might pose for our field staff should that happen.
We have implemented that for that reason. So
Right.
they have RTs, and that is a communication device. The InReach is a personally worn
Right.
safety device that is tracked through satellite.
Great.
So yes, we need a number of means of communication.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, it's good to hear that we still have RTs because I wasn't aware of that. And
Yeah, we do.
it was an interesting discussion, the things that come out or that we learn from, from these types of incidents that happen. Not that I should describe as the cyclone as an incident. It was far more than that. So thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions for Marie? If not, could I get a mover to accept the health and safety report? Councillor Cookson, second Councillor Clarkson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. We now move on to, this is item 8.2, page 61, the Local Government New Zealand Conference and Excellence Awards 2023. Dave's going to speak.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy for this report to be taken as read. A couple of points. All we're seeking to achieve at this point is to figure out who wishes to attend the conference so that we can secure appropriate accommodation and flights. Once we get notification from the organisers of the program and further details, we'll distribute those to you as quickly as we can. And is there any questions?
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots there. Are there 5 slots because that's what we have budget for, is for 5 people?
We tend to budget for 5 people, and if more people wish to attend, then that budget is apportioned between the group, and the difference comes out of your professional development budgets.
Right, right. So just wanting to make sure everybody understands that there is a governance budget that covers quite a bit.
It covers your registration, meals, accommodation, flights, I think. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Just for councillors who may not have attended the LGNZ conference in the past, It's run by a professional company and working with LGNZ. They're usually quite well run, big conferences with a lot of local elected representatives from around the country coming together. They usually get quite a lot of ministerial input. Last year's Prime Minister and a range of ministers spoke at it. Of course, for things like the reform program that's been on, it's been very topical, and with some of the changes going on, we haven't seen an agenda yet for this year, but it is something which is, we're part of the local government New Zealand family, and I'm just signalling as quite a major event for many elected member representatives, and some of the councillors here will have attended in the past if you want to know more.
And does the chair always?
Generally, as a general chair is, and I mean, it's not required, but there's generally an.
Well, and they usually have the regional sector group meeting along.
So just talking a little bit more to it, you'll see there's a regional sector tour. Now that's typically attended by the chairs and chief executives, although because that's another week and that's additional cost on top. But you do get some elected members from some councils joining it. Typically, it's usually when it's in more proximity to where the host council is. For example, we had several councillors attend the regional sector tour that we partly hosted last year. It's in Canterbury, of course, this year, which would have a look at some of the range of issues down there. It is usual for the chair to be attending that. And during the conference, there is a regional sector meeting, and I think one or two councillors here might have attended that. It's usually the only one during a year that you'd get to attend and see what's going on.
So currently, we're not sure what will be happening before and after, but there are normally events prior and afterwards. So we will be holding off on flight bookings, but there is a real demand on accommodation. So we tend to get bookings in for core accommodation right now. Otherwise, you're left with the scraps, which isn't good for members wanting comfortable night's sleep. So. So there's a budget of $5,000, which is split between the number of members who go, and that's in addition to your professional development budget. And the rest of it's picked up out of your professional development budget, depending on what you wish to attend.
So I definitely would like to go. Are there expressions of interest from other councillors? Councillor Downard, Councillor Cookson, Councillor Strange, are you keen to?
I have been in the past, but if there's space available, I would be interested.
Yeah, there's one more going. One more space in the 5. Do I need to auction it off? Interested. Great. All right, so we've got myself, Councillor Downard, Cookson, Strange, and Nickel. All good. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Nickel, second Councillor Hughes. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we are zipping through. All right. I think my run sheet says we're meant to be at morning tea, but I think it's a little too early for morning tea. We'll keep powering through. So we will go on now to item 8.3. This is on page 64, the Waikato Regional Coastal Plan Review, circulation of pre-notification draft to iwi authorities. Tracy May, would you like to introduce this?
Kia ora and good morning, councillors. I think we've had the pleasure of a couple of workshops thus far this triennium, so this paper will not come as a surprise to you. It is a step in the statutory process with the view to notifying the plan in the middle of the year, in accordance with Clause 4A of the first schedule of the Resource Management Act. We're required to circulate the draft copy of our plan to our iwi authorities. As registered on the Te Puni Kōkiri website in accordance with section 35 of the RMA, a draft copy of the plan for their advice to be provided to council. Now that advice does not have to be, we will bring that back to council. That advice is just advice to council. Council can choose to change the plan or not change the plan. Similarly, iwi can choose to provide advice or not provide advice, but it is a necessary statutory step to fulfil prior to notification. Madam Chair, you've heard me speak before that the plan, which is attached as a separate document to the agenda, is basically 95, 96, 97% finished. So this is a pretty seminal moment, building on the last 2-3 years. Happy to take any questions.
It does feel like it's been a long time coming, eh?
Yes.
Sorry, don't want to jinx anything. I'm going to go to Councillor Marr as the Chair of Strategy and Policy, who's taken us through the last couple of workshops. Any comments you've got?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things I'd like to point out. Through our work with the CE's KPI, obviously you're aware that that won't be reached, and it was off target. It's now been extended out to the 30th of June of this year. One of the other things we've spoke about in the coastal plan is the letter out to the landowners, and I've put it back to Tracy, and I'd like input from other councillors. I just feel with what's gone on with the cyclone and stuff like that, that a regional council sending a letter out to these landowners within the next week or two is probably not too conducive to getting some favourable feedback, as you can imagine. So what I would sort of suggest is that we perhaps do that with the timing with the iwi consultation side of it, and perhaps move that out until the end of March, something along those lines. So.
Madam Chair, councillors will recollect that prior to Cyclone Gabriel, I'd already said, hey, I don't think it's going to be a good look. We put it out when the Coromandel was just getting over hail. So taking it on board, and thanks to Councillor Marr for raising the issue with me, and also to the other councillors who have raised issues, that is entirely doable. I think it is also shows the empathy this council has for that community, but also is all in the best interest of the process to give people the time. So we would not be sending that letter out until after the 20th of March. There were also probably about half a dozen questions councillors asked at the workshop, of which one of those was to see a copy of the letter. So you will have responses to the workshop questions today, so you'll be able to see a copy of the letter that's going out. And some additional information, but I think it's wise and respectful of our community to defer it.
Thank you, and good to hear that letter's coming back. Did you want to comment on that letter, Stu, or you got something else? Otherwise, I'll just whistle through my points. That's all.
Yeah, no, I'm not in a rush. I just want to comment it when it's appropriate. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, so as you're well aware, I sort of have put my foot on the brake on this coastal plan a little bit, well aware of the work that's gone in. Just want to make note of a couple of things. Obviously, I've put some questions to Tracy. We're going to get feedback on that. And just making note of the other organisations that are doing work in this space. MPI are doing some work on baseline surveys for Benthic rehabilitation. There's also the Environment Select Committee, which is actually meeting this coming Monday. I'll work in that, the aquaculture industry feedback. And then obviously, are we still doing a submission to the Karakia Gulf Fisheries Plan?
Through you, Madam Chair, that is on the agenda for strategy and policy, which if the agenda isn't out, it should be out today. So our submission to that is on that agenda, and we make particular reference back to the coastal plan.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, so just to finalise, I'm happy to move forward with the going out to the iwi consultation with those answers you've come back to me with. So thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can just identify, there are two other matters, two minor amendments that we'll be making to the copy you was circulated in the agenda. One is an odd sentence that Councillor Dunbar-Smith has identified for us, and I think it is a minor amendment that can be made prior to it's just a funny sentence is the best way to describe it. There's also, in response to Councillor Ma's question around clarity of terminology used in respect to mangrove removal, we'll also be clarifying that sentence. Again, they are minor matters that assist clarity.
Thank you, Councillor Dunbar-Smith, for getting out your proofreading magnifying glass and finding the one tricky sentence in that entire thick document. I acknowledge and appreciate your perseverance. Councillor Kneebone.
I was just going to say that I support proceeding with this iwi consultation, but did I just hear that you say you are now on board with?
Great. Any other comments? If not, do I have, we've got a mover in Councillor Kneebone, second in Councillor Marr, that the report is received, that we go out to iwi and that and then point 3. Yes, around the iwi engagement. Before I put it, I would just like to say fantastic work collectively from last triennium's council and this triennium's council, and the endless dedication from staff and those who work for us in contracting roles to get us to this point. I know it has been a long haul. I know there is still more to come, but I just want to acknowledge reaching this milestone because I think it's significant. So so well done. So all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. Now we are on item 8.4, which is on page 69 in your agenda packs. This is changes to the constitution of the Waikato Local Authority Shared Services Limited, also known as COLAB.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Councillors, this is a procedural matter which relates to the constitution of the shared service entity within the Waikato region that we are a shareholder of. It's seeking, as a shareholder, your approval to make several changes. The most substantive one is kind of a little bizarre thing that's occurred where Taupo District Council has sold its share in COLAB and is looking to get taken over by Western Bay Plenty District Council. What's behind that is Taupo who are also a member of the Bay Plenty local area shared service, see more benefit from that shared service, and that's largely through because of the risk profile that Bay of Plenty has from an insurance point of view. They get a better discount in insurance premiums, and so they tend to align more that way. On the other hand, the Western Bay of Plenty sees the work that COLAB does in the Waikato of more benefit, the other type of work. I don't think they're giving up their Bay of Plenty shareholding, but they'd like to, they want to join and be part of the Waikato local area shared service, which is a benefit in discounting some of the projects that we do. COLAB is set up to try and get benefits by working together on various projects. And there's things like shared valuation databases. There's a regional transport model. There's learning and development, which is shared, and a whole range of other projects in it, which delivers some benefit by being able to do it across councils as opposed to each council doing its own. And obviously, with an eye to the future, there's also future potential matters. Whilst doing it, and I'm a director on COLAB, I'm one of 5. They're also seeking a change, which was the intent apparently when it was set up, that because it's about administrative sharing of services, that the directors of CoLab be elected, not be elected members and be executives of the organisation. As I say, I'm one of 5 representatives across the organisation. There's also a minor change in who approves the director remuneration. The only director remuneration is for the chair, because our council pays my time to be present on that board. And the chair, and often we're only talking about if there's a change, there's only several $1,000s and have to put it through 12 councils to get that approval. It's just an administrative matter. And I think the other minor changes that they're seeking resolution relate to the fact that it's got a trading name as CoLab, as well as it's being the Waikato Local Area Shared Service. So, Madam Chair, the recommendations are there, just seeking those changes.
Any questions for the CE on that? All good. Sorry. Oh,
Sorry. So,
yes. Councillor
um,
Strange.
thank you, Chris, for that explanation. Just wondering, are there any other crossovers with Zone 2 with those councils involved, or?
In terms of crossovers, as in members of different shared services, is that what you're meaning?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
All right, if there's no other questions, I had a mover in Councillor Downard and a seconder in Councillor Hughes. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, we now move on to item 8.5. This is on page 96 of your agenda packs. This is the Muggeridges Pump Station debt repayment options and final confirmation of the 23-24 annual plan. Now there has been, since there's ongoing conversations about Muggeridges, the gift that keeps on giving. And so I think that there has been a change to the recommendation that's coming through, but I'm going to turn over to you, Director Ryan, to take us through.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morena tatou. Yes, so this paper, just a reminder of council, we discussed this at the last council meeting, and there were 2 particular areas that the council was interested in exploring further before making a decision, and particularly around the use of the prior year surplus for offsetting the general rate component of each of the options that was put forward, as well as acknowledging the fact that the constructed canal has an uncertain future currently, and that it would be appropriate to set aside the costs associated with that, both the construction costs and also a portion of the design, consenting, engagement cost, etc., that have gone into that particular part, whilst that option has been worked through, and understand that there are still active discussions happening in that regard. And so this paper presents a variation to the previous 3 options that we put forward, with option 1 being the use of the standard Piako River Scheme operational funding, option 2 being the Muggeridges funding policy that has been previously adopted by council following a special consultative process, and option 3 being a variation to that, acknowledging that the project was not completed. Subsequent to the preparation of this paper, I do understand there's been some community feedback around council's consideration of these options, and certainly a desire for some engagement before council progresses with the final decision. So in lieu of that, I've taken the liberty of redrafting a recommendation for council to consider, which involves council certainly endorsing the use of the prior year surplus and setting aside the canal costs, also endorsing the use of or paying back the debt over a 10-year period, but setting aside a decision on the actual options to be considered in lieu of engagement that is to occur. We've spoken about bringing back to the end of April meeting.
Move that
And
up. So this is reflective of
Yes.
your.
yeah, so we
you
can take those through one
recommended.
by one. And just noting that there are some tight annual plan timeframes, so we will certainly be working really hard to get this done as soon as possible.
Right.
Maybe even to beat the deadline, so we'll see
Right.
how we go.
Well, and I suppose that while you're saying, bringing it back to the 27th of April, should those conversations happen prior to the March meeting, we could bring it back.
Absolutely.
If we're Speedy Gonzalez with it and,
Yep.
and get those conversations underway really quickly, we could progress.
And that is my objective,
Yeah,
Madam
yeah.
Chair, to enable our staff to do what they need to do to, in the back room, to enable the annual plan to proceed to where it needs to go.
Right. All right, so are councillors clear on the changes? Oh, Councillor Kneebone.
Can I think we need to understand what's driven this need for additional consultation. I mean,
It's just engagement, not formal consultation.
Okay, oh, that's important to
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
So my bad if I misinterpreted that, because I guess the point I was going to make is that this council in good faith has agreed in principle that to use a general rate surplus, obviously, to try and make things soften them a little bit, and just wanting to understand where, I'm assuming it's coming from you guys, but I don't know where we're headed with this additional engagement. I mean, if there's a desire to try and further increase the general rate contribution to this project, then I'll be pretty unhappy if that's the only reason we're postponing this.
No, so my understanding is that the last meeting that was held with the Waihau-Piako Flood Protection Advisory Subcommittee with regards to this matter was last June. And so it's really about respectfully bringing those who had been on this journey up to speed with the options that are before council. And having those conversations so that council can assure itself that particularly those who were involved in the decision-making over the last 3 years or not decision-making, but guidance advisory, we're able to close the loop with them. I think that's the desire.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor Cookson?
Yeah, I believe that the three options on the table are the only ones to be discussed. It's just for the community to decide which one it is. I don't
Or
think
give
there's
us,
any,
it's not, they don't decide.
Yeah.
It's that they are able
yeah,
to
their
give us
opinion of
guidance.
where they want it to sit. Yeah, not to change. Thank you.
Yes?
Just quickly, so that new number 6, that council directs staff to engage. Have you not been doing that up to date? Anyway?
Yes, so we have been engaging with particularly direct beneficiary landowners at later last year, but there's been no specific conversations around the options that are being considered today.
With the wider subcommittee that had been involved.
Yeah, so the last advisory subcommittee was in June when that occurred.
All right. Oh, Councillor Clarkson.
Through the chair, I'm just interested in, there was some commentary in some of the attached papers around the regional council staff investigations of things like alternative land uses and the ways of doing stuff in relation to this issue. What's the likely timing of us being given information along that lines in relation to the timeline that is now in front of us for making this decision?
The only thing I could offer is that I don't expect there to be any resolution within the timeframe that you're talking about today. I expect it to be much longer in-depth conversation around where to from here.
Okay.
It's a conversation that Hauraki District Council are currently leading, given it is one of their drainage networks and they have a committee that's across that.
Thank you.
All right. There's no other questions? Councillor Cookson, you want to put this motion, or I'm sorry, you want to move this motion? We have a second and Councillor Hughes. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry, yes? Yes, yes, we did everything except set the option because we wanted to have those conversations about those options with those advisory subcommittee members.
And the only other, sorry, I should have said before, I'm assuming number 2 is comprehensively worded enough to give effect to what we agreed to do, because if you didn't know what we agreed to do, you couldn't pick it up from reading number 2. But
Oh, would you like to clarify?
Yes, so there is detail in the paper around how the general rate
Yeah,
component has been used for each option, and that is simply reflected through there, so it'll be reflected in the report.
Right. All right. So we no longer have the 8.6 item. So we will go to our public excluded section. Do I have a mover, Councillor Kneebone, a second, Councillor Strange, to move into public excluded? Do you need to read out the rationale, or is it?
I do not. The rationale is set out on page 143 in the agenda or as on screen. If anyone wishes me to read that out, I'm happy to.
No, we'll take that as read. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we'll go through our recording shutdown.